Doreen Whitfield had stood at the public entrance of Belgate Crown Court for 19 years, and in all that time, she had never once watched a barrister get turned away at her own front door. Not until the Tuesday a security guard named Roy Sennett decided that a woman with a wig tin under her arm and a gown bag over her shoulder must be something else entirely. It was 8:40 in the morning, and the queue for the metal detectors already stretched past the notice board and out toward the steps. Doreen was sorting through the lost property box in the lobby. An umbrella, a single glove, somebody's reading spectacles in a case shaped like a fish, when she heard Sennett's voice rise above the usual morning shuffle. "You'll need to go round to the public line, love. This door's for barristers." "I'm a barrister," the woman said. Her voice was level, unhurried, the kind of calm that comes from having said something true many times before and never once needing to raise it. "Beatrice Adeyemi. I'm listed for the Whitlock matter this morning, in court too." Sennett didn't move aside. He glanced at her gown bag the way a man eyes a suitcase he suspects isn't his. "Anyone can carry a bag like that. I'll need to see something." She set the wig tin down on the security desk without a sound and opened her bar identity card for him, holding it steady. Not pushed forward, not withdrawn, simply offered. "This is current, and my name will be on this morning's cause list, posted just there behind you." Sennett didn't look at the notice board. "These things get borrowed," he said. "Best you wait with everyone else till someone from Chambers comes down to vouch for you." Doreen felt something tighten in her chest that she didn't examine too closely. She had 19 years of watching people come through that door. Silks and good coats, pupils with their first robes still creased from the box, defendants' families who hadn't slept the night before a verdict, and she had learned to read a room by the set of a person's shoulders. Beatrice Adeyemi's shoulders did not drop. She stepped neatly out of the flow of the queue, set her bag at her feet, and folded her hands. "I'll wait here then," she said, "but I'd ask you to note that I arrived at 8:40, in case it's needed later." Sennett's jaw worked once. He didn't write anything down. He turned to the next person in the public line as though the matter were already closed. And behind him, on the notice board he hadn't bothered to check, Beatrice Adeyemi's name sat in plain black print. Third from the top. A young man in a pupil's robe, waiting 2 places back in the queue, looked at her, looked at Sennett, and said nothing. Doreen watched him decide not to be the one who spoke, and understood the decision perfectly, because she was making the same one herself. She busied herself with the lost property box for another minute, throat dry, telling herself it wasn't her place. She had told herself that before about smaller things, and the telling had never once made it true. When she looked up again, Adeyemi hadn't moved. She stood near the pillar with her gown bag at her feet, watching the clock above the security arch the way a person watches a kettle they trust, eventually, to boil. At 8:51, the door from the robing corridor banged open, and Owen Mercer, the listing clerk, came through at something close to a jog, his collar already askew, a clipboard pressed to his chest like it might escape him. "Has anyone seen a Ms. Adeyemi? Her Honor won't open the list without lead counsel for the defense, and Chambers swears she left an hour ago. They're not answering the phone down there." Doreen's mouth was moving before her nerve fully caught up with it. "She's been here since 8:45, Owen. By the desk the whole time." Mercer turned. For a moment, he looked at the composed woman standing by the pillar and didn't quite understand what he was seeing. And then he did, all at once, the way a forgotten name comes back to you mid-sentence. "MS. Adeyemi, I'm so sorry. Nobody rang through that you'd arrived. I was told to wait until someone could vouch for me," Adeyemi said, and there was no heat in it at all, only the fact of it laid down plainly. Mercer's face changed in a way Doreen had seen only a handful of times in 19 years. The particular paling of a man realizing the morning's delay has a cause, and the cause is standing 6 feet away, and the cause has been standing there the whole time, patiently, while the clock ran. He turned to the cause list pin behind the security desk, ran his finger down it, and then turned the whole board so that Sennett could see it for himself. "Beatrice Adeyemi, KC. Leading counsel, defense, Whitlock. Right there, where it's been since 7 this morning." Mercer's voice had gone harder than Doreen had ever heard it. "She's been kept waiting 11 minutes, because you wouldn't let her through a door she's entitled to walk through." Sennett looked at the cause list, then at Adeyemi, then at the queue of people who had, without quite meaning to, gone very quiet and were watching now too. I didn't know, he said. You didn't ask, Mercer said. You looked at her and decided you didn't need to. Adeyemi gathered her wig tin and her gown bag without any particular hurry, the way she had done everything else that morning, and walked through the door that had been closed to her for 11 minutes. Mercer went ahead to warn the court she was coming. Doreen watched her go and felt, for reasons she couldn't entirely name, that she ought to follow. So she did as far as the robing corridor allowed, and then a little further than that into the back of the public gallery, where she had no real business being. By the time Adeyemi reached Court 2, Her Honor Judge Hilary Fenwick had already been told the cause of the delay, in the brief, careful language court staff use when they intend a thing to be heard twice. The judge did not raise her voice either. She simply said it for the record, loudly enough that the dock, the jury bench, and the press seats all heard it plainly. Let the record show this court was delayed 11 minutes this morning because leading counsel for the defense was refused entry to a building she has practiced in for over 20 years. Then, more quietly, to Adeyemi alone, my apologies for the wait, Ms. Adeyemi. Please proceed when you're ready. She did. Witnesses were examined. The morning's business moved forward at its ordinary pace, and nothing in Beatrice Adeyemi's conduct for the rest of the session suggested that 11 minutes at a security desk had cost her anything at all. That, Doreen thought later, watching from the back row, where she had stayed far longer than her shift required, was its own kind of answer. By 10:30, Aldous Pratt, the court's facilities manager, was standing in the lobby with Sennett's contracting supervisor on the phone and the day's incident log open on the desk in front of him. Empty, exactly as Doreen had suspected it would be. Pratt didn't raise his voice either. The whole morning, it seemed to her, had been conducted at the volume of people who didn't need to shout to be believed. Mr. Sennett stood down from the public entrance for the rest of today, pending a formal review with the contractor, Pratt told her, when she happened to be nearby with the lost property box again, an excuse she no longer pretended very hard to need. There'll be a written apology to Ms. Adeyemi from this office before the day's out. For me, not just passed along from them. What sort of review? Doreen asked. Whether he stays on this contract at all, for one thing. There's a wider piece, too. Every guard on every entrance across the contract gets retrained by Friday. Credentials and the cause list, full stop. That's the standard now. Not a guess about who looks like they belong here and who doesn't. Pratt closed the logbook a little harder than he needed to. Should have been the standard already, if I'm honest with you, Doreen. The written apology went up to Chambers that same afternoon, and so, more quietly, did a laminated card at the security desk, credentials and the cause list, nothing else, in Pratt's own handwriting until a printed version could be made. Doreen read it twice before her shift ended, the way she read most things that felt like they mattered. She saw Beatrice Adeyemi once more that day, at 4:30, coming back through the lobby with her gown bag over her shoulder, and the trial adjourned until the morning. Doreen almost let her pass without a word, 19 years of knowing her place, and then, for the second time that day, didn't. I should have spoken sooner this morning, she said. I'm sorry I didn't. Adeyemi stopped, and for the first time all day something in her face eased, just slightly, the way a held door eases when the wind finally drops. You spoke when it mattered, she said. That's not nothing. She walked on, out through the door that had finally worked the way it was always meant to, and Doreen stood there a moment longer than she needed to, turning the 11 minutes over in her mind. How short they had been by the clock, how long they must have felt to stand inside, and how close she herself had come to letting them pass unremarked. She thought she would remember that longer than she would remember most ordinary Tuesdays at Belgate. Not the trial, not whatever verdict eventually came of it, but the particular stillness of a woman who had simply refused to be made smaller than the plain truth of who she was, and a door that, in the end, opened anyway, because it could not honestly stay shut.